Thank you very much. All right. Felix, are you here? Are we good to start? All right, sige. All right. First of all, I would like to thank everyone. Of course, I would like to thank the Compile team for setting up this event. No, this is really a good one. I want you guys to have an idea of what software quality assurance is, what software testing is all about. All right. Uh, Kudos to the team for getting in touch with our current speaker. Okay. I highly encourage you guys to take notes. Okay. Believe it or not, hindi lang software development ang pwede mong puntahan. You can also be a software tester, a software quality assurance, which is also a highly lucrative job. And I think ang i-discuss ng speaker natin is UI. It's called UI-licious. I've heard of it before, but I haven't used it yet. I think it's a good tool for those who will go for software testing, lalo na for the third years, pag malapit na rin ang ano nyo, ang internship niyo, you can opt for software testing. You have a mind. It's a, again. I keep on telling this that if you have a what you call this, having the skill of a developer and you're doing software testing, that's a very good what you call this, very good combination. It's a deadly combination, so to speak. All right. So I think without further ado, no, we have our Phyllis, we have our speaker already. Ayun, Sir Moods.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Rinig ba
Ayun.
ako?
Okay. So okay, Felice, take it away. Thank you very much, guys. And towards the end of the webinar, there will be a survey for you guys to answer. That would also serve as your attendance for this webinar. All right. Thank you very much, guys, and please do enjoy. You're in good hands. Thank you, guys.
Ayun. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me as your speaker regarding quality assurance related topic or QA things per se. So, I'm gonna do a basic introduction first. I'm not much of a um, presentation guy. So, kumuha lang ako ng templates sa Canva. At least may visualization ng ng mga itatakal natin. And at the same time, after this is just like a 5 slides. After these 5 slides, I will be showing you like a practical on how I usually do testing in general, both for manual testing and automation testing, which we will be discussing in a little while. So our topic for now would be QA things, meaning we'll be tackling all about QA, what is QA in general, what is quality assurance testing in general, and why it is needed for the software testing, software development life cycle. So I believe some, or if not most of you, have come across the SDLC, the software development life cycle. So part of QA testing is part of the software development life cycle, and it also has its own cycle, which is SDLC, which we'll be discussing a little bit later. Okay, so moving onwards, uh, I'm Moods. My full name is Muzdahir Amil, but you can call me Moods. I'm a graduate of Manila Titana College's BSIT. My first job is game operator. So it sounds good, but in reality, it's a more of a game support. So I don't answer to calls, rather I answer complaints. So for example, like nag-top up kayo and yung tinop up nyo din yung na-receive after restarting the game and all that. So mostly yun yung job ng game operator, which actually helped me in landing my second job, which is a game tester. So if most of you are probably not aware, I'm not sure, I could be wrong, but based on my research, there's no actual course that focuses on quality assurance testing or testing in general. Maybe meron parang mandatory major subject lang where it requires you to attend QA testing or QA management per se. But for the quality assurance course itself, there is actually none. Well, to begin with, maiksi lang talaga yon eh. Maiksi lang talaga yung parang curriculum ng QA. There's only manual testing and automation testing, and then there's the testing types. So, kaya sobrang iksi lang niya. And then, my current job, which is, but before I landed my current job as a QA manager, I became a QA engineer. So, the difference is that at a game tester, I test games, I play games, pasok sa office, I get to office, and I start playing games. That's pretty much it. But that's how people see it. While it's partly true na parang uh, you play you get paid to play games. Totoo naman 'yun. But what most people don't see is the repetitive work that you have to do. You have to be meticulous and also do or finish a checklist worth like 1,000 test cases. So test cases is a like, how do you say, test cases are cases where you will be following in order for you to ensure that the program is working as expected. So test case, for example, we have the Facebook login. We have the Facebook login, and it says it has 5 test cases. So what first test case would be the uh, ensure that user can fill up the email field, ensure that user can fill up the password field, ensure that user can click on login, validate that username and password doesn't match, and of course, lastly is error message should appear if password is blank or invalid or username is blank or invalid. So ganun yung mga test cases. It's really focusing on each specific function that we um that we uh that we usually do. So yun yung parang general idea of the test case. So after being a QA engineer is the one usually do creating test cases, creating test scenarios, as well as in terms of automation testing, we are the ones who create the automation program or automation script. So yun yung QA engineer. And then after like 2 years of working in Singapore under the same company, which is UI Licious, I have been promoted to QA manager and advocate. So I started doing demos to clients, showing how our product UI Licious works and how it's easy to use for automation testing, so on and so forth. So other than that, my hobbies are like maybe some of you saw, I'm into custom mechanical keyboards. I believe most of you have already seen what Felice showed during the open house in I Academy, and also photography. So I'm currently doing street photography, event photography, and cosplay photography, so on and so forth. Videography as well. So I'm into those. So that's the general thing about me. If you have questions about me personally, I can answer that later maybe. So moving forward, so, what is a QA tester? Someone who works with software or a website to ensure it runs properly. Like I said, the purpose of QA testing or testing, software testing in general, is to ensure that the functions from the basic up to advanced functions are working fine. From as simple as logging in, it should be working fine. The functionality of a website like search, or if ensuring that all buttons are working fine and it's being redirected to the correct page. So all of those are part of the software testing. Quality assurance is the term used in both manufacturing and service industries to describe the systematic efforts taken to ensure that the product delivered to customer meet with the contractual and other agreed upon performance, design, reliability, and maintainability expectations of that customer. So in QA testing, usually the QAs are keeping in touch with the product manager because the product manager knows the in and out of the product, the simple features up to advanced features. They all know that. So QA testers usually keep in touch with the product managers as well as devs to ensure that the documentation they receive, that the documentation that the testers received are correct and in line with what the customer wants or need for their software. And based on the documentation that was given by the product manager or the dev team, we as a tester will be creating test scenarios and test cases based on the given documentation. That's why usually in game we have what we call the GDD, game design document. All of the things that needs to be done is included in the game design document, from the graphic design, how it should look, from level design, interactables, UI, UX, animations, all of that, unique functions, complex functions, so on and so forth, complex features, nandun lahat sa game design document. And using that document as QA testers, we will be creating test cases depending on what to test. So may mga different types of testing na ginagawa ang mga testers, and then there's a couple of them that is commonly used testing types, and usually hindi sila nawawala kahit anong type of software you're testing. QA testing can be a repetitive process, so it's easy to lose focus after analyzing and reporting for long periods of time. Since so much of the job can seem repetitive, QA testers have to possess a sense of discipline to get through the job. This is actually true. Uh, Usually, it's easy to test websites depending on the simplicity of the website. Depending on the simplicity of the website, it can be done in less than an hour, or it can be done more than an hour. And one of the longest testing I did was as a game tester was 14 hours worth of testing. So I was testing the same game for the last 14 hours. Some of you may think na, oh, 14 hours naglalaro ka lang. Yes, for 14 hours. I was just playing the game, going back and forth, repetitive, but it gets really tiring. So think of like an MMO where you're doing a certain mission for like 100 times in a day. Ulit-ulit yun, non-stop. So, depending on what the update is, doon kami mag-test. And that's why it's easily to lose focus for, kasi the more you play it, the more repetitions you do, the more you get used to it. And it is a pain for, imagine 14 hours playing the same mission all over again and again. So, it's a tedious process, and one of the most time consuming in game as a game tester is what we call the progression testing. Progression testing is from the word itself. You have to progress all throughout the game. So, for example, let's give an example: God of War Ragnarok, the recent one. Progression testing. If the manager requires us to do a progression testing, we have to sacrifice a few QA in the team, because progressive testing needs to be done from the beginning up until the end. So itetest yung progression, ensuring na kapag nag-save on a certain location on a certain mission, pagka nag-continue, babalik doon, and doon dapat maglo-load, and then moving doing another progression. So in terms of progression, it's not only limited to missions or finishing the entire story as fast as you can. Progression also includes that you have to upgrade weapons, you have to upgrade abilities, skills, and all that. So kasama yun sa progression. Otherwise, kapag in-skip nyo yun, and the product manager or the team lead ask for like, oh, kamusta yung skill progression? Did it work fine? Since hindi siya nadaanan kasi ini-speedrun lang yung from beginning up until the end, chances are you have to do another round of testing for all of that. So that's why it's easy to lose focus when you're doing testing because of repetitions and the amount of time that you're actually using during the testing. So going to the testing types, we have what we call the functionality testing, usability testing, environmental testing, sanity tests, and
Battery 20%.
Smoke testing. So these are different types of testing that is commonly used all throughout different applications, may it be website, mobile application, or standalone application, or a web application. So all of these are relatively the same. It's just that how it executed is quite different. So functional testing in website is quite different on how functional testing is being done on the game. So those are two different things, but the purpose of the testing is the same. Functionality testing is from the word itself. you're going to test all of the functions that is included on the web application or website. Search, login. Do you have to check if all mechanics work or not? Stuff like descriptions, saying incorrect person did this. Yes, you have to test all of that. I experienced I experienced this during when I was testing one of the Disney projects that I was working on. And ano siya, battle type na game. And we have to ensure na hindi overpowered ang isang character over the other, or the damage that a certain character deals is balanced enough even if you're on the lower levels and the higher levels. So hindi pa kasama dun yung hindi pa dun kasama, like for example, you leveled up your character and then tumaas yung percentage ng damage, tumaas yung percentage ng defense, on all of that. So all of that are being tested as well. Reading the entire thing while hunting down defects. Basically, yes. So I'm not sure if I have a copy of a sample of test case. Pero test cases are generally really long. So let me just find a quick example. Ilang tao po kailangan para maging successful ang isang QA testing game? So my time frame. Well, the time frame will actually depend on the customer and also the product manager. So we have in QA testing, we have what we call man hours. So for example, in a company, may QA department which has 10 QAs. Then yung functional testing has a total of 3,000 test cases. And according sa gumawa ng test case, kailangan ng a total of 40 man hours para matapos yung buong testing within a day or within a certain shift. For example, regular shift 8 to 5, to ensure na matatapos yung functional testing ng 8 to 5, we have to accommodate 40 man hours. So meaning kukuha tayo ng 5 na QA from the QA department, and sabay-sabay silang magte-test ng functional testing kasi each QA will consume 8 hours. So ganun siya. So if you have a bigger team, it would provide faster testing to ensure na yung deadline mami-meet habang natetest lahat. So if a game is famously buggy, it means that the company didn't pay enough QAs. You could probably say that as well, or that, or overworked ang kanilang QA. One common thing is what happened with Cyberpunk 2077 during its initial release. That both devs and QAs are overworked and nirarush sila lagi sa deadlines. Like, even if in my experience, there was one time wherein ako yung gumawa no, I made 4,000 lines of test cases and I calculated the man hours, and sabi ko, one tester will consume 3 days, 3 business days to finish the entire functional testing, para pagka kung gusto nilang matapos yon within today, I need at least 10 testers para matapos yung buong functional testing in a day. But apparently, yung team lead ko noon, masyado siyang a big follower ng product manager, and he wasn't being really considerate about what I said, and stating na 2 tester lang ang kukunin ko and dapat matapos yung testing today. I said, it's not possible because based on the calculations like I sent you, it needs to be 10 testers to ensure na matapos yung So oftentimes, I think that's the case for buggy games. It's the fact that the product managers or the clients are rushing the entire team, even if it's no longer according to the documentation. Kaya ganun siya. So that's functional testing. And then sanity testing. Sanity testing is ensuring that the application or the website is working fine on the device that you're testing. So for example, you're testing on mobile apps. Sanity tests ensures that the website or web application works on iPhone, different sizes of iPhone like iPhone 15, iPhone XE, iPhone 12 Pro Max, mga ganun. And also same goes to Android. So that's sanity testing, ensuring that the website and application or the game itself is working fine. The very basic of the most basic functionalities of the web application or the application itself is working fine no matter what type of device you're using. And then the smoke testing ensures the very basic functionality of the website is working fine. For example, logging in, dapat nakaka-login sila user nang walang issue. Signing up, dapat nakaka-sign up sila user nang walang issue. Um, the main menus are working fine. So yun lang. Smoke testing is relatively short, ensuring na accessible yung website or application no matter at any time of the day or every after update. So yun yung sanity test. Usability testing is a type of testing wherein it ensures na kahit sobrang low spec ng ng device ni user, accessible pa rin. Though it's not guaranteed na parang it would work fine, but it can be accessed. So yun yung usability testing. And then we also have the negative or destructive testing, which is an unorthodox way of testing, meaning you're basically doing everything to destroy the website or the web application or the game itself. Especially in mobile. In mobile testing, negative or destructive testing is pretty easy to do since like pagka-open mo, i-minimize mo agad, i-close, ilalak yung phone, increase the volume, take screenshots, basta anything na parang unorthodox, which in reality hindi naman ginagawa ng a regular user. Syempre hindi naman yun yung parang like I open an app and then immediately locks my screen. So hindi naman siya usual case for user, but it's a good form of testing to ensure that this, even if there will be an instance where that will happen, it's still working fine. So those are the different types or commonly used testing. We also have regression testing. I'm sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint or like a presentation for this. And regression testing is basically a type of testing to ensure that all of the previous features that has been deployed is still working fine even if a new update has already been deployed. So, ganun siya. Kasama din po ba sa QA testing kung nagana ang cheats sa game? Yes, it's what we call the exploitation testing, or it's actually not at an official type of testing, pero if you're a game tester, it's one of the things that you will be testing. So number one would be the common thing that is being done by most exploiters is yung date and time. So if you have a reward basis type of feature, usually ina-adjust nila yung date and time ng device mismo para mapabilis yung pag-claim nila. So that's part of the testing. But unfortunately, like mods and stuff as that, clipping through the wall, if you're a regular tester and you actually have time to test those, it would be a good addition. But like as in there's a saying in QA testing wherein we say there is no application that is 100% defect free, meaning all applications will always almost have a bug in it. So, ganon siya. So, don't believe na pag may nagsabi na parang it's bug free or defect free, there's no such thing. There's always that one minor, really, really small issue. Although it's say like misspelled text or like a misaligned text, it's not a major issue, but it's still an issue. So, ganun na siya. That is why patch updates in the first place exist. Yes, that's true. So, again, regression testing is a type of testing where you will be testing the new updates to ensure na yung mga old features is not affected. Kasi there are times wherein sinabi nila, oh, we just deployed a patch, we just released a new patch fixing this, fixing that, fixing this. But in reality, an old feature has been affected by that update. So hence, the developers, gagawa na naman sila ng panibagong patch, uh, panibagong patch to fix what has been broken due to the recent patch. Mga ganun siya. Bali, mas maganda if ang isang game ay may patch eventually. Yes, the purpose of the patch is to fix those small little issues na naglilinger somewhere within a game or an application. So, yun. Then, lastly is retesting. Retesting is really important if you have a lot of bugs. As a QA tester, it is also your job to ensure that the documentation of all of the reported bugs, reported issues are listed in details um, or you have a proper documentation for it so that if you have to backtrack where an issue that you remember has been reported before, mababalikan yun. Mababalikan nila dev. So as a QA tester, it's not only your job to test the application or the web app or the game itself, it is also your job to provide a detailed report to the developers. So for example, like like uh, like one of the students said, clipping through the wall. So clipping through the wall is clearly an issue that almost all games have somewhere, on a corner, on a certain corner of the open world. So subject would be usually clipping issue, and then the description would be if a user goes and do a certain action on this specific area, eventually the clipping issue will appear, and then after that would be the priority and severity. Priority is a status wherein the QA will analyze if that type of bug needs to be fixed as soon as possible. So we have high, medium, and low priority. High priorities are the bugs that needs to be fixed as soon as possible. Medium priority comes next. Lowest priority comes last. And then there's severity. Severity is a status to determine how big the damage is of a bug to the website, application, or the game. So there are instances like the clipping issue. For example, yung clipping issue, you can only do it on a very specific way. Like if you're just a normal person just playing the game and enjoying the game, you won't be able to encounter it. But if you're something beyond that, something like you really explore the games in and out, every corner, every nook and cranny, then I'd say if a clipping issue causes a major bug, then that would be a major severity but medium priority. The reason why it's not on high is because, like I said, it's not being encountered by regular users. So ganun siya. Oftentimes there are also like um, minor severity. Then again, it doesn't really affect much of that certain aspect of the website. But if it happens, it causes a blocker. A blocker means that hindi mo na magagalaw yung website or there's no way for you to move further from that function. So ganun yung blocker. So blockers are really important. And even if sobrang baba ng repro rate niya, if it's a blocker, usually it's always on high priority. After adding the priority and severity of the bugs, you will now input the reproduce steps. Reproduce steps is basically a step by step, like step one, two, and three, and four, and so on and so forth, on how you did the bug. So, yung repro steps, kapag ginaya ng devs yun, dapat mangyayari sa kanila yung bugs. And then lastly would be the actual result and then the expected results. So your expected result would depend on the documentation. So going back to the first topic that we had, expected result would base on the documentation of the web app or website or the game itself para aware sila tester na parang dapat ganito yung mangyayari. So this is the expected result but apparently the actual result is quite different. Hence, it's a bug. So ganun siya. Okay. So those are the general types of testing and how you usually report a bug. And so this is the testing life cycle. Software testing life cycle requirement analysis. This is where the QA testers will be discussing on how to what needs to be tested, how to test it, and what types of testing needs to be done, what type of devices are required for this testing. Meron din po na reproduce rate, di ba? Like if it happens. Oh yes, reproduce rate also is also included on the bug report. Thank you for pointing that out. Repro rate is basically if it happens all the time, as long as you follow the steps, it would be a 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 5. But if it happens sometimes, like even if you follow the steps, it's an intermittent issue, then more or less it would be like 5 out of 10 or 3 out of 5, something like that. Okay? So test planning. Test planning is mainly being done by testers. Dito sila nag-uusap or dito nila pinagmimitingan kung ano yung kailangan na testing type. Sanity, smoke, functionality testing, regression testing, progression testing. Like I said, progression testing is not applicable for all of the application. Mostly it's just for game. There's no progression testing on websites or web applications unless the web application itself is a type of HTML game. Uh, all of that are being drafted, and then test case development. This is one of the most time consuming cycle of the testing. Test case development will now this is where all of the testers will start creating test cases for sanity testing, functionality testing, compatibility testing, environmental testing, unity testing, black box testing, so on and so forth, whichever is being required based from the test planning. So in this case, for example, let's simplify it to the test planning only requires smoke testing, sanity tests, and functionality testing. So based from the documentation that was given to the tester, they will now start creating test cases to ensure that all of the sanity tests is covered, functionality test is covered, and smoke testing is also covered. And all of the test cases will now depend on the documentation that it did. Para at least, for example, in the future, like say a developer, oh, this is not may oftentimes I have encountered this stating that nilabanan ako ng dev saying, oh, this shouldn't how the behavior should be. So sabi nilang dapat ganito yung behavior, ganito, so on and so forth. Instead of me as a tester debating to them na parang that's not how it works, I actually have a proof na dapat ganun yung behavior ng feature na yon, which I'll be showing them the documentation. So based on the documentation that was given to us by the client or the product manager, this is how the behavior or the expected result of this feature should be. So from then onwards, wala nang say ang developers because they don't have a proof na na yung sinasabi nilang behavior is the right one. That's why documentation is really important. It's a really big aspect of QA testing. And evidences. Yes, evidences is a must. I think some of you have encountered some software development lifecycle memes wherein Sabi doon, QA tester, I have reported a bug about this issue, and then yung software engineer or the developer says, it don't happen on my machine, or it doesn't happen on my machine. So that's where the evidence comes in. So the evidence can be in a form of screenshot, screen record. Better if it's screen record, para at least they could actually see it firsthand na that issue is actually happening. From then onwards, they won't be able to say anything to the QA. That's why a detailed bug report is also very important as a QA tester, so that it can save you time in communicating with the dev. So I'm not sure if you noticed, but on the beginning of here it says I test developers' patience daily, and it is true. As a QA, you always test your developers' patience daily. So imagine like you're a developer, you deployed an update, I immediately found the bug, I reported it, you fixed it, you release a patch, and then I found another bug, and so on and so forth. So that exchange is actually quite frustrating for developers, but for QA, it's actually not because it only took us like, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes of testing to find that bug. So yes, for aspiring developers, please don't get mad at your QA. They help you a lot in terms of building your software, but oftentimes it's something unavoidable. Pero patience is a virtue, guys. Patience is a virtue. Ayaw din namin ng nakakahanap kami ng major bugs almost all of the time. So, fair and square. So then again, environment setup. Moving onwards, environment setup is where you will be discussing what type of device that you will be using. For example, the website needs to be tested on a PC or a laptop. So dapat meron kayo nun. And then it says it requires testing for all of the major browsers. So Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge Chromium, IE11. I don't know if gumagana pa yon. So you have to have all of those, and then it's part of the documentation or the requirement is also mobile testing to ensure that the website or the web application is working fine on mobile. So pagdating naman sa mobile, you have to have everything from low end, mid end to high end. So low end are usually the old ones, iPhone 4, iPhone 5s, iPhone mini, then the medium one like iPhone 6, iPhone 10, and then the recent ones like iPhone 13 Pro Max, 14 Pro Max. Same goes to Android, which now includes foldable phones. So another pain in the head for devs and QA, those Samsung Flips or Fold, something na madugo itest yung mga yan because of their unique screen resolution. So we have those environment setup. Environment setup also includes if what type of internet you're using. Modem, we have 3G, 4G, 5G. So in a website, you can actually manipulate the amount of network that's coming in. You can instruct the website to use 3G or 4G or 5G instead. So that's part of the environment test. Test execution, and this would where all of the things that you have done from step 1 to 4 will be executed. So dito na yung sinasabi ko yung mga execution ng sanity test, ng functionality test, or kung ano man yung requirement ng testing. And then lastly is test case closure. So this is where usually retesting is being done. Like for example, natapos na yung first initial phase of testing, and then nag-release na ng panibagong fixes sila dev team. So you go and do retesting for the reported bugs, ensure that everything's working fine. Do regression testing, ensuring that all of the old features before the deployment has been done is working fine. And then lastly would be signing off. So sign off is the last phase of the testing. Pag na-sign off na, it means all of the tests are passing. All of the checklist test cases are passing, and no moderate, major, and critical issues has been reported or is currently open on the bug report list. So end of the testing and sign off na, it means good na siya for deployment. So, do remember we have dev, staging, and production. So, depending on how the workflow for each company works, sometimes QA tests on dev, tulad namin, in UI Licious, I usually test on dev first to ensure na all of the new functions and features are working fine before it's being deployed to staging. And then, pagdating ng staging, another round of testing, the same tests that I did on dev will be executed on staging. And then after that, everything is good. It will now be deployed to production or live. We will be doing another round of testing, same with the set of tests that I did from dev and staging. That's why on the previous slide before, QA testing is really repetitive and tedious because paulit-ulit talaga yun. Paulit-ulit talaga yung testing from dev, staging, and production. Okay, last slide before I'll be showing you guys like how I usually do manual testing on websites. I might probably show you how usually testing works with a game kung kaya. Um, manual software testing is when human testers check the quality of new application without using automation tools, like I said. How to test a website will depend on the requirement. So this is how usually a test is being done. For example, we're planning to test say pinapatest sa atin yung ano bang pwede. May accessible pa bang 9gag na say okay, let's go na lang to GitHub. So just gonna change my screen. If you have questions, guys, while I'm setting up this, you can ask freely. Yeah, okay. I'll be sharing my entire screen. This on the right side, this is UI Licious. So, for example, we're testing GitHub, right? So one of the functionality testing that we will be doing is to ensure na kapag nakalagay doon sa documentation na GitHub website, the website itself is in liquid form, meaning if I resize this, the UI and everything else will adjust accordingly depending on how big the the window is. So ganyan. So this is also a part of testing. Like for example, if you're on a certain size of the window, makikita nyo tong mga menu sa taas. But if you go smaller, it will actually turn into a hamburger button. So this is called hamburger button. What makes UI Licious different from other testing frameworks? UI Licious is a low code to no code tool, meaning if you don't have any idea how to program or if you don't have any prior knowledge with programming, you can actually still use UI Licious. And it's easy as reading a sentence when you're doing tests, which I will be showing you guys later on. So then again, this is how manual testing works. So like I said, the hamburger button over here should also work fine. So this is functional testing that if I click on hamburger button, it should show a drop down menu. Same goes to the sub menus that has appeared, and all of them are still working fine. And then we also have, like for example, you don't have a mobile application or mobile in hand, we can go to say inspect element, and then we are gonna change sizes, say iPhone XR. So this imitates the resolution of an iPhone XR, and you can test the functionalities over here. And also test, say, iPad mini. So mga ganyan. Meron yan, and test everything, ensure everything is in line and working fine. So this is part of the sanity tests and also functionality testing. And then if it requires you to do some network tests, we have over here, say, on the network is, as you can see, no throttling here. Dito sa drop down na to. Hindi ko sure. I'm just gonna make it a little bit big. So no throttling. We go to fast 3G and then do a refresh and we'll see how it loads. Kung if it's still loading despite of us having on fast 3G, then it's passing. We have slow 3G and then we do another refresh. So this will imitate the slow 3G. As you can see, all of the assets are loading slower than usual. And then check again if everything's working fine, so on and so forth, despite of us on slow 3G. So this is network or environment testing. And then I'm using Opera GX as of the moment, by the way. And yeah, so that's why I said, depending on how the complexity of a website, doon tumatagal yung testing. We have what we call the JLL. It's one of UILicious biggest client. JLL is a um, real estate. It's a real estate company wherein they have like 100 fields of form na nag-fill up ng prices, land space, square foot, address, location, all of that. Since a real estate, they have all of these details. So the testing will become longer, which requires more time for QAs kasi mas malaki yung website. But unlike GitHub, for example, we just want to sign in. So we just fill this, and you're done testing. Or say sign up, you have to ensure that you can sign up. So you can sign up your email over here and then click continue, so on and so forth. And then the smoke testing is done. So ganun siya, mostly. And then the main difference between manual testing and automation testing is that automation testing is an automation tester who is responsible for testing software applications using automated testing tools. Automation testers design and implement test cases, run tests, and report. So the main getaway here is that with manual testing, it will require you human energy from the first part of the testing life cycle, from the requirement analysis down up to test execution, manual siya lahat. But with automation, you will be spending most of your time creating test case development and environment setup. Environment setup in automation includes creating automation scripts. But so time consuming siya, yes, time consuming. But once the script is complete and everything is working fine, kapag na-require ulit ni product manager, oh, we need to do another round of functional testing. Manual testers will have to re-execute everything again, which will consume all of their 8 hours. But automation testers simply go to the file and click run, test is running. So wait for the results, maybe less than an hour later, and you're done testing. So that's the wonders of automation testing, but it requires knowledge and experience. But with UILicious, it doesn't actually require you a prior knowledge in terms of automation testing, which I will be tackling later on. Now, in terms of game testing, I'm not sure if I have something good over here to use as a uh, reference for testing, but I'm gonna try looking up so that at least you guys have an idea on how to test games. I think a lot of you are interested on how to do it or interested in game tester. It's quite fun actually, guys. Honestly speaking, it's being a game tester is really fun. Magbabago talaga yung outlook nyo, or how you play games will start to change depending on how much you spent doing QA testing or game testing. Gawa ng game within the workshop. I hope I can, but I'm still in the process of learning game development, self-study. We're working on it. Me and a friend of mine are working on it. Pero yeah, share mo daw sir yung game mo. I will, I will. Let me just... I'm just looking up on the window. Yung personal project, unfortunately, hindi pa masya-share yon kasi it's totally a prototype pa. I hope I can share this. Or is that... Ayan, this one. So, within a game, ang ingay yata. It's too loud, I think. So ayun, bale part of the game testing is actually testing the splash screen, ensuring that all of the required logos will appear, and also ensuring that the user won't get stuck on the splash screen. So one of the blockers or critical issues a tester might encounter during game testing is what we call, if the number one, if yung game nag-crash out of nowhere, or if you're doing a certain thing and then nagka-crash yung game. So that's a blocker kasi hindi na makakapag-proceed si player. So that's a critical issue that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. And then of course, on functionality testing, if you see like press any key or press space bar or press enter, that's also part of the functionality testing wherein you have to test that to ensure na if you click those buttons, it's working fine. And then we also have here over the menus, ensuring that if you go to the options, all of these menus are available for you to select or change, part of the functional testing. And then if part of the UI UX testing naman is if once you click on options, the UI itself and the user experience is quite fluid, quite smooth, and everything can be easily understand at first glance. So that's part of the UI UX testing. And then all of this clicking changing UI from HUD to accessibility, also part of the functional testing. And then another part of functional testing is if, for example, you change anything on the video or the graphics menu or the graphics option, that's part of the testing. Like for example, if we change the resolution to a higher resolution, it will require the game to restart. But depending, this one is subjective kasi minsan you can change the game's resolution without actually restarting the game. And some games, like Dying Light 2, it requires you to restart the game before the application or before the settings is applied. And then nag-crash because 100 hertz lang ang monitor. Then that's actually also a bug. That can be considered a bug because all games should be made or should be done, like I said, with sanity test. It should ensure that the game will work despite of the specs. So that covers the sanity tests. And then play campaign, ensure na kapag clinic tong play campaign, it will redirect you to the new game. And then once you click continue, it will also redirect you, or immediately, depending on how the game is designed, it will automatically direct you to the last checkpoint or last save point that you have made within the game. So that's part of the functional testing. And then here we see the loading screen, also part of the testing. This can be under the part of exploratory testing. Usually, exploratory testing is being done if all of the major or the required testing is already done and my time pa to play around. So we usually do exploratory testing or exploration testing that ensure na yung loading screen is working fine. Kapag may mga loading animation, it should play. Kapag may mga tips, it should show. So those are part of the testing as well. That's how tedious being a tester is if you guys are planning to become a tester in the future. So, I'm not sure if the game is just loading slow kasi naka-share screen ako and maraming tabs na naka-open, but I think that's the case. So, ayan, optimization testing is also a must for games. Ensure na hindi na experience ng user yung ganitong frame drops during normal game wherein if you're not streaming or you're not doing any share screen at all. So that's part of the optimization testing na kailangan i-note down ng mga developers. So apparently I'm not sure if it's just on me pero the share screen is actually I think limited to 30 FPS, I'm not sure. Pero yun, so those are one of the things that needs to be noted down. And say, as you can see, and currently my character doesn't have anything on hand. So that's by game design. So that's by game design, meaning if you're in a safe area, you don't have to hold anything or hindi required na may hawak ka. But once you go outside the area or the outside safe area, so for example over here, you will automatically draw your weapon. So if we go out the there we go. So ay, yan yung mga functional testing. And all of these animations are also part of the testing, ensuring na no clipping, no anything else, or like clipping issue. Especially the hitboxes are working fine. So yung mga ganyan. So hitboxes are working fine. Sound testing is also include this. If you're hitting like metal or something na inanimate, it should not go through as well. So, yun yung mga part ng testing. Certain animations, like if you obtained it through skills and progression, that's also part of the testing. Yun, yung mga ganun, as simple as that, like if a unique animation screen also part of the testing. And one of the most tedious way to do testing in a game is if you're testing the environment. So, Dying Light 2 is commonly Dying Light 2 is commonly known for its parkour experience. So, if you're testing this, you have to ensure that the environment itself is parkour friendly. So, meaning if I jump here, it will hold on, and if I jump here, mga ganon. So, everything should be working fine as intended and climbable based on the documentation. So these are the things that needs to be noted down if you're a tester. And then we also have the map, for example. So sa map, we have to ensure na if based on the game design document, you have say na parang some games doesn't have legends, some games like this have their own legends. So you have to ensure na all of them are working fine or appearing as intended. And then you can be as wild as you can be as creative as you can in terms of testing, especially if doing exploratory testing. Kasi oftentimes developers do their own testing pero may mga nami-miss out sila sa tests. May mga ganun. And so yung mga Like this simple effects should also include like if you're poisoned or you're being hit by a certain chemicals, it ensure na all of the necessary triggers happens like being damaged or like those motion blurs and all of that are included in the testing. And so progression testing in this type of game would be would take a lot of time kasi imagine this open world, this is an open world game, so all of these are explorable and you can parkour on basically all of the buildings that you can see. So yun siya. Then of course we have the inventory system. This needs to be tested as well, including the mods like spark, flame, reinforcements. All of these needs to be tested. And you could see the stamina regen, power attack. All of those are being computed and calculated, ensuring na the calculations are correct. If you get this bonus, if you get this bonuses on a certain weapon or certain armor, dapat may kita ni player or may feel ni player na it's actually helping them make the missions easy or the exploratory testing part of the game is actually doable. Then we also have crafting. So if we craft arrows and we see the requirements are scraps and feathers, and we have the numbers of the amount that we have in our bag. So if you click craft, ensure that na mababawasan sila based on how much is required. So for scraps, it needs to be 10. For feathers, it only consumes 1. So then again, part of another testing. So all of this, all of the things, functional testing that you see are all included, including such as searching on certain stuff, dapat may maklaim ka, and the UI itself appears. So if, for example, like meron kang sinearch and may narinig kang cue na parang may napulot ka or may nakuha ka, but it doesn't show you what you picked, that would be a bug. So usually that's only a moderate bug. Nakuha mo pa rin naman yung item na nasa bag mo pa rin napunta sa inventory, but a certain aspect of that feature is not working fine. So it's just moderate kasi mostly ano lang siya, UI related issue lang siya. So that's how the game tester works. And of course, part of the testing is also what happens if you jump this high, kung madadamage ka ba, mamamatay, or fall damage. Now that depends on the requirement of the devs. So for there oftentimes merong nilalagay sila dev na no fall damage, ganyan. Ganon, ragdoll animations, all of those are being checked. So yeah, game test. If you're wondering why most of the AAA games take years to develop, one big factor would be testing. It takes a lot of time doing tests. So mga ganun siya. So any other effects such as like fire, sparks, and all of that should be tested as well since integral part siya ng game. So yeah, as simple as that and as simple as doing this like vents. So if tumalong ka, if you have a parachute with you, you have to ensure na it's working fine. I don't know what's happening, pero I don't like the sound of it. So yun, that's how usually testing works. And tulad yan, shock effects and all of that are also being tested. Kaya, bale yun lang. I'm gonna quit this na. Bago ako mag-enjoy. Okay, that's it. So last, and so as you can see, there are different ways of how to do um, the same testing, which is functional testing, but on depending on what type of application you're testing, it's actually quite different from each other. Then again, manual testing is really time consuming, but it helps you guarantee that the application is working fine and it's working as intended based on how the documentation is said. Okay, so ganun lang ang manual testing. Then moving onwards, we are gonna go with automation testing. So automation testing is relatively the same with manual testing, but it takes more time in creating scripts than executing it. So I want you guys to go on ahead and wait lang, and visit this website. So in UILicious we have a public snippet tool that allows you guys to create tests without signing up. So if you're on your PC or iPad, I think gumagana siya sa iPad. You can click on the link and let me know if you already have access. Can you guys check the link? Okay, good. So UILicious, there are quite a few of similar applications out there, such as UILicious. We have Selenium, the most popular one, Selenium for automation scripts. We have Cypress, Ghost Inspector, and I think we have like three more that is similar to UILicious. But what makes UILicious unique is, like I said, UILicious is a low code to no code tool, meaning even if you don't have any prior knowledge in scripting and you want to start working or start doing automations, you can use UILicious by just reading the very basics. Okay, so share ko lang ulit ang screen ko. Just gonna zoom in a bit. Actually, wait. I put this here, then this one here. So if you guys see Tammy, the cute little we like robot uh, on the bottom part of the screen, this is actually Tammy. Tammy is our very first AI test assist tool wherein kapag ka naglagay kayo ng instruction done, it's still a baby. It's still a baby. We're still teaching her how to do proper testing or proper automation. So with Tammy, you can just type in, for example, say login to apple.com or say login to github.com. So once you click enter, it says I'm writing a test for login to github.com. Please sit back and relax. So it will generate its own test version. So since we are still working on it and we're prioritizing other stuff to improve Tammy. So as you can see, meron na siyang nagawang result. So I'm just gonna minimize this, zoom in this. Meron siyang gawa, I go to GitHub, click sign in, fill username, address, username, password, so on and so forth. Since, as you can see, Tammy is still an AI version 1.01. It's really young. So you still have to do your own version of refinement to ensure that the test is working fine. So if we click run, it will run the test that Tammy created. Click sign in, and there you go. I see page title GitHub. So apparently since wala naman tayong account with this kind of credential with GitHub, hindi tayo nakalogin. But as you can see, Tammy managed to make it work. Now, how does UILicious differ from other product? Like I said, automation testers spend more time creating test cases and creating test scripts. Meaning, for example, if we go to, we have Wikipedia on the left side of the screen over here. Say we want to search for cats, diba? So imagine UILicious is a tool that allows you to imitate human actions while still being a bot. So take note guys, UILicious is still a bot and nabablock pa rin siya ng ibang mga heavily secured websites kasi considered pa rin siya as bot. But it will help your life easier in terms of testing. Will the automation testing get stuck po sa mga I am not a robot captcha since like an automated script? Yes. I mean that's the general purpose of the reCAPTCHA. The general purpose of the reCAPTCHA is to block bots or automation tools that tries to access it. That's why most of the major ticketing outlets, like for example, if you're going to an event, if they're a big event, usually they have reCAPTCHA with them to ensure na hindi makakapag hindi makakagamit ng bot yung mga users to buy the tickets. Because as you can see, for all of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps, it only took UILicious 3 seconds to execute the entire test. So if for example, you have a website for ticketing and everything is working fine, sobrang smooth ng website mo, if I stagger UILicious 10 times in a row, in about less than 2 minutes, I can buy 10 tickets with UILicious. That's why reCAPTCHA is there to ensure that this type of scenario won't happen. So ganun siya. So let's start testing with UILicious. How do we usually start testing with UILicious? Number one, we have to understand the website in test. So in this case, we have the Wikipedia, right? You can go on ahead and open Wikipedia on your end also, guys. So on Wikipedia, we went on and searched for cats. So ito yung parang flow natin, di ba? Nag-search tayo ng cats. So first thing we need to do is copy the link. And then pagdating ng UILicious, as you can see, we have a blank canvas. We type in i.go to, as you can see over here, i.go to URL, and then add a quotation marks, double quotation, and paste the link. Always remember that the HTTPS is required, otherwise UILicious will understand this as a regular string, not an actual URL. So we go I.go to to the website, and then the next thing we did is fill the search bar, right? So I.fill search, and then ano yung fill natin sa search? We filled cats, right? So that's step 2. And then last is we click on search. We click search. Other than mouse interactions, we also have I.press enter. So para gayang-gaya usually kasi di ba, we don't click on search anymore after filling up like how to do testing, enter. Enter na lang usually, di ba? So we click run, and then the test will run for us. There you go. So if we maximize this, as you can see, step 2, step 1 kasi is start of test. Yan yung parang pinaka-umpisa talaga. So the first one is I go to the link. So as you can see, reading on the report itself, para kayong nagbabasa lang ng message. I go to the link, I fill search with cats, and then I press enter. Of course, as a QA, you always have to validate the result, right? So we now simply have to add I.c, say cats, or for example, we have more than we need to validate something a little bit more specific, diba? So say we have This one. This article is about species commonly known, kept as pet, family, holiday. So we're gonna copy this. Then we go to IC and paste this. And then we also have another form of validation, which is I am at. So from the word itself or from the term itself, I am at meaning nasa certain location ako. So we copy the link that showed after we have searched for cats. Go. And so we have two types of validation here, ensuring that we are on the correct link and ensuring that this text appears accordingly, which is based on the website. So we click run again and wait for the test to finish. Just about 3 seconds, we're done. So as you can see, we have I go to the link, I search cats, press enter, and then validated the URL, which is correct, and then validated that this text exists. So test case number 1, done. So ganun siya, ganun kadali ang that's how easy automation is once you have finished the scripting part. Now there are also complexities. So if we go to demo QA, I think that's the right term, yes. So you can also visit this guys, demo QA. Demo QA is we're mainly using this to test some functions. Like for example, we want to fill forms. For example, we can practice forms, right? So punta tayong demo QA. So I go to demo QA over here, and then we click forms, right? So we click forms. We change this to I that click forms, and so you're wondering how UILicious works. UILicious works under the hood by once you go to the website, it scans the entire page. UILicious will scan the entire page, and then, for example, you put in I.fill username and then the string or the value. UILicious is intelligent enough to understand that the nearest field that you're referring to is the one that is nearest to the element or to the text username. So, ganun siya katalino. Nadidetect niya kung ano yung pinakamalapit na field sa 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 element na tina-target mo. Okay, so we click forms, then say i-validate natin to. Please select an item from left. So I.c, please natin yan. Then we want to click on practice form para lumabas tong student registration form. So I.click practice form, and then validate na lumabas yung form I.c student registration form. Ayan. We click run. Ensure na it's working fine. There we go. So we have demo QA. We went to demo QA. We click forms. As you can see, yung blue circle indicating that oh, it's not case sensitive. Don't worry, it's not case sensitive. You can type in as it is. So registration forms. Then IC, please select. So nababalidate niya. I click practice forms. You can see it's clicking on the correct one and validate that student registration form exists. And then, so we're gonna start filling up. So comment tayo dito, for example, fill up the form. So step 1 would be I.fill first name. Say, fill natin ng moods. Yan. Then I.fill last name. Emil, which is my last name. Then we say I.fill email. Say tester01 at inboxkitten.com. Then gender, for gender, since ano siya, since radio button siya, we will be using the I.select option male. The select doesn't work, we can use the alternative which is click. So kapag click natin to, that mag-highlight siya. Okay, that's good. So male, then I.fill mobile number, say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I.fill date of birth, say comma, then 01 January 2023, and then I.fill subject, say, I don't know, uh, informatics, like this. So yan na muna. Then let's try running it again. Hopefully it works fine. Ayun, so it went broken sa part ng pag-fill ng date. So in these cases, it's most likely depends on the website. So what happened over here, as you can see, we went to demo QA, click forms, validated everything, and up until from the starting, we are filling up the correct form. So first name Moods, last name Amil, email, as you can see on the result screen, it's being filled. I select mail, it's also being selected. Fill number, but pagdating natin ng date of birth, nag-blank siya. In this case, it is not the automation's fault, but it's how the website is designed. So I don't know how it works, pero once you click on it, you can actually type, but there's a date picker that appears. But for some reason, UI Licious doesn't see that, and yung nilalabas ni website is just a plain blank screen. So that's a bug on the website's end. And so I guess that's the very general idea of automation. As you can see, it's very straightforward. Magtatagal lang talaga kayo sa pag-script ng automation script. But after that, if everything is okay, simply run the test. Now, like I said, diba, QA can be repetitive. So if, for example, the manual tester, yung product manager nyo is nag-require ulit na, sige, gawin nyo ulit yung functional testing. So manual testers will spend a lot of time again on doing the same thing all over again na ginawa nila for the past, I don't know, like 2 days. But with automation, this is our main website. I'm just gonna show you. So ayan. This is our main website. You can test on all different major browsers. So we have an updated web drivers wherein kung gusto nyong i-test yung website nyo sa Firefox, you can do so. Just simply click on Firefox, Safari, so on and so forth, and then click run, and then i-run na yung test on that respective browser. Now, what if, like I said, paulit-ulit si product manager and he or she wants to test everything all over again? In UI Licious, I'm not sure on other tools, but in UI Licious, you can actually schedule a job. So scheduling a new job allows you to schedule X number of tests. You can select all of your tests. You can select like 5 of them only, and then schedule them. Once na naki-schedule yan on a certain time, date, or every day per se, like this one, and every 3 hours from 2 a.m., which means every 3 hours from Monday, every 3 hours on Monday to Sunday, automatically magra-run yung test. So for example, day 1, nag-request si product manager, can you do functional testing? Since tapos na ang script ng functional testing and everything is working fine na, and the script itself is passing, all you have to do is click run, wait for the test while the manual testers are still at the very beginning of their test case, you, on the other hand, is almost done testing kasi naka-automate na lahat. So, you click run and the result is finished, and this is how the result looks like. Ayan. So, as you can see, success. So, pwede mo na sabihin, oh, sir, there's no issues with the functional testing. Everything's working fine. It's passing on our test. So, moving onwards. Then, the next day, nag-require ulit, oh, can you please do another round of testing to ensure that everything's working fine? So, sila manual tester, kakatapos pa lang mag-test, magte-test na naman sila ulit. And you, since naka-schedule yung test mo, and recent na like an hour ago kakaran lang ng functional testing, instead of running them again, all you have to do is click on the very recent result and give it to your product manager and sabihin mo, okay, one of our automation tests ran an hour ago before you gave the go signal na mag-test ulit. Since wala namang deployment and everything is the same as yesterday, this is the result. So that's the wonders of automation. It takes you time in scripting, but once it's done, you can just sit back, drink your coffee, and wait for the test to finish. So, ganun siya kadali. I mean, ganun kadali ang buhay if you're already done with scripting your own scripts for automation testing. So, yun. I guess, masyado na akong nagdaldal ng marami. And that's the very general idea of QA testing. Like I said, be patient. You may lose focus because of repetitiveness, but QA test being a tester is actually a good opportunity, especially for developers or aspiring developers. Kasi QA testing is not something that you can learn ng basta-basta in school. Not all schools, or practically almost all schools, doesn't actually teach QA testing. So if you try to learn QA testing and manage to get experience out of it, it's actually a very good skill to have. So if you're an aspiring freelancer or currently you're doing freelancing, say web application or gumagawa kayo ng website, you can actually learn QA testing and then you can use that to leverage your price, meaning you can probably demand a little bit higher to your clients na parang uh, my rates has increased kasi I'm also doing testing for you guys para at least before I turn over the project to you, everything's complete. All functions are working fine. Na test ko na and everything. All has been tested. So you actually have the rights to demand a little bit higher kasi nga you did extra service for them wherein they have to test it themselves. If all create additional fee, yes, you can use that to leverage your fees a little bit higher. So that's the wonders. Uh, for those who are planning to do freelancing or applying for work, my one biggest tip for you guys is learn as many skills as you can. Honestly speaking, learn as many skills as you can. It's okay to focus on one thing. Like for example, if you're into programming, it's okay if you want to focus into programming. But in reality, based on my experience, in reality, the tech industry is not limited or focusing on only one type of skill. If you have additional skills, so for like QA or say graphic design or kung ano mga additional skills that you have can actually help you boost up the probability of you getting higher and actually being paid more. That's why as long as you have the opportunity to learn something new, keep improving, keep learning. Self study is a must, guys. Self study is a must. Uh, Before I went to Singapore, I was a game tester. Before I went to Singapore, I was a game tester. I don't have prior knowledge in automation. I don't know what Selenium is. I don't know how to start doing automation. I don't know. I mean, I know how to code, like the very basic. I don't have skills and experience and knowledge about automation scripts or how to even execute automation scripts. I don't have all of that before I went to Singapore. But I risked it. I applied for QA jobs, both manual and automation. And then like a week before UI Licious invited me for my initial interview, I studied automation. I studied Selenium. I studied how to set up Selenium. I started from the very basic. I tried to understand what automation is and what are the common tools that is being used for automation. I landed on Selenium, and then after that, I studied Selenium, how to set up Selenium, what are the required things that you need to do before you can start testing with Selenium, what is web drivers, how do you install web drivers with Selenium, how you install web drivers into your machine, and all of that. I studied that within a week and actually tried to learn and make my own very basic automation script lang, which is yung pag-login sa Gmail. I use Selenium to log into my Gmail, and yun na yung that's what I did within a week. So it's very basic, but it's actually one of the main reasons why I got hired in UI Licious. So learning, always learn all throughout your career progression, and eventually uh, uh, once you start applying for jobs, you learn more. You're way ahead of other competitors who are just starting, which is the biggest advantage that you could have, especially if you're working as a freelancer as early as now or during your if you're a student. Those are big experiences that you can have and will help you land a job immediately once you graduated. But then again, in our industry, in the tech industry, there's no room for being or staying stagnant. Everything keeps improving. The technology keeps improving every year. So hence, you must always also improve your skills and all of that. And eventually, once you succeed, those skills will become passion. So it's not passion is not something that you immediately get or experience or feel. Like for example, oh, I love game development, or I love graphic design, parang natitripan ko to, so this is my passion. No, it doesn't work that way. Passion grows over time. Passion is something that you will feel if you have mastered a specific skill. For in my case, I just started learning photography. I just started learning photography, and immediately I got hooked into it. I started learning like what are compositions, what are framing terminologies, and everything. I got hooked. I got addicted in taking photos, especially street photography. It's starting to get fun, but I cannot say it is my passion. Like I said, passion grows over time. Wherein, for me, passion is something na parang if something tells you about it or something asks you to do it, without any hesitations, you are confident enough that you could do the best that you can. Like easy, sobrang dali lang para sa'yo. Then that's where that certain skill of yours have reached the passion level. Kasi sobrang dali na sa'yo to the point na if someone asks, you can just immediately do it like at the back of your mind. Like kahit parang stock knowledge na lang siya. That's where passion comes. You can do it easily, but at the same time, you are enjoying it. So that's all, I guess, as a tip for those who are graduating or planning to start their internship somewhere. Don't be afraid, guys. Don't. It's okay to get intimidated by the employers or those who are looking for high risk. Risk is something that you can always take. It's better to try. It's better to try than do nothing at all. So more power, guys. Yep. So that's all. Do you have any questions? So yun lang. How do we end this, guys?
Hello, hello everyone. Um, Bago tayo mag-end, we will proceed to the question and answer portion. So, if meron kayong questions to our speaker, you can just type it or mag-raise kayo ng hand para matawag kayo isa-isa.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions, guys. Being inquisitive is okay. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Even though sometimes sa mga co-workers nyo, it can be annoying, but being inquisitive is always nice. You can never go wrong being inquisitive. So, yeah.
Okay, so wala bang questions, guys?
Do you
Final
have
na.
any questions in terms of applying for job or freelancing or anything else? Ayan, may nag-raise ng hands.
Okay, first muna si Don Gerardo.
Plus sinabi ni Cordell yung tatanong ko, ano ba yan? So my question is, well, for the sake of the students who also intend to like earn money while they're still being students, like become working students, what are the advice that you could give to students who are somewhat interested or leaning towards to be freelancers, like in this day of age? Because there's some people who aren't like as talented as who can draw, who can
Mm-mm.
edit or such. So what would you suggest for those who aren't quote unquote passionate in certain skills to start in? Like something na madaling gawin.
That's a good question. But honestly speaking, there's actually no way for us to say na there's an easy way out or parang sobrang daling intindihin or sobrang daling matutunan or sobrang daling umpisahan. Uh, the biggest advantage that we have, not being biased, the biggest advantage that we have in us, especially you guys being in the tech industry or tech students, is that you already have the head start. You already started learning programming. You already have been taught how to do your own website probably, or depending on your course. Uh, utilize what you have. If you have PC, you can try to learn. You can try to improve your programming skills. In my case, I started studying web development because for me that's the easiest approach for me. Kasi I'm not really into programming. Actually, I'm not really into programming. Sobrang parang out of scope ko yung programming. I can do programming as long as I could understand. Pero yung mga com- complicated programming sa Java, C Sharp, Python is something na hindi ko nakikita yung sarili ko na learning it in the future or in my current situation. So I went with something that I could easily learn and actually enjoy doing, which is I came across with web development, HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, PHP, and MySQL. All of these were my main main skills that I studied and learned in order for me to at least start understanding on how web development works, web design works. And then from then onwards, it's just a matter of you making a lot of different websites and growing up your portfolio. We don't talk about Bootstrap and PHP. Yes, apparently, pero for that is true actually. Pero for if you really want to start somewhere, that is not a bad option. What is important is you manage to make your own website, a working website, grow your portfolio, and there's a lot of online websites like Felice said, Upwork and Online Jobs PH. So these are good platforms to start as a freelancer. But not the number one important thing is the portfolio. Start from the very bottom. It doesn't matter if it's not grand, if it doesn't matter if it's not something big, as long as you start and then you make more, keep improving yourself, improving on that certain aspect of skill, you'll eventually it will eventually grow into you, and sobrang to the point na sobrang dali na lang, and you can actually start working on clients and eventually look for bigger clients and be confident na parang kaya ko to kasi I have portfolio, I have proof to show them na this is what I can do, and based on my portfolio, this is how much you could pay me for this type of website. So that, and it's actually applicable to photography. uh I have been into photography when I was in high school, pero since hindi pa ako nakakaipon nun during that time, napaka-basic lang, and I didn't have the time to actually take photos. But after that, I went back into photography and started learning and started understanding. And then eventually, the most important part is just start. Just start. If you're an aspiring freelance photographer, go out, take photos. That's it. Same goes to programming. Start programming, work on your features, and eventually build a whole website. And from then on, you can branch out yourself and improve more. So that's how I started my photography, freelance photography biz. So yun siya. So think someone asked over here, how much ang sahod ng QA? Well, that depends. Kasi may junior QA, may QA tester, then senior QA, then team lead, QA manager, so on and so forth. And it also depends on the company. It also depends on the company. Um, One of my tip is that video game companies in Philippines doesn't pay high. I mean, I don't want to set your expectations too low, guys. I also don't want you guys to expect something high. Pero that's the reality of working in the tech industry. You always have to start low. I started as a QA for like 15K lang a month. But the amount of experience that I gained was beyond 15K. So it actually helped me look for a better job after that. So, like I said, patience. If you want to start somewhere, it's okay to start low. Once you gain skills, once you gain knowledge, gain experience, and be more confident with your skills, then that's the time that you have your own rights to demand na, oh, masyadong mababa yan para sa skills and skill sets ko and my experiences. My demand is this. So once you have reached a certain level of skills and experience, you can confidently say na like mababa yung offer nila, and this is how you actually offer yourself. So ganun siya. What's the last game you tested? Last game I tested was the Disney project for mobile application. It's a mobile application. And nag-flop siya kasi ang daming critical issue and hindi nakikinig sa akin yung product manager. So they still want to push with the update despite of having critical issues. So flop. So ano pa? What happens if you don't have a background on that certain portfolio, like it's your first job? Will it affect your rates or anything at all? Good question. Yes, it will affect your rates kasi nga the employer or the person that is planning to employ you doesn't actually have a proof or something that they can use as a leverage, wherein for example, like I applied as a photographer, diba? I applied as a photographer and I asked for like say 60K yung sahod ko. But they check my portfolio, I only have like maybe 10 photos or less, and that's it. So, tapos yung mga photos na yun is very basic. There's no creativity, basta point and shoot lang. So they cannot actually say na parang this is not worth 60K. This is worth lower. That's why portfolio is something that you have to keep building on your end. It's good to start as early as now. If you're planning to do freelancing today or in the future, maybe start as early as possible. Start as early as possible while also enjoying your teenage life. Guys, enjoy nyo yung teenage life nyo. You can start freelancing or you can start working on your portfolio, but don't forget to enjoy your life. Kasi once you get into it, once you start working, it's addicting. Lalo na if good yung environment, good yung the pay is good, not high but good, and the environment is not that toxic, it gets addicting. So, yun lang. Portfolio for tech is a must. Except for software dev, siguro if you're working on a big software engineering company, then I guess pwede nyong ilagay na lang doon na you were a part of this, you did this function, ikaw yung gumawa ng feature na to. If you have developed a major feature, that's also something that could include in your portfolio or resume. Mga ganun. Yep. So, anything else? Ano po camera gamit niyo, sir? This is a Fujifilm. I'm not sure if you can see. Fujifilm X-T4 with Fujinon 90mm. Also, if so, how did you start building it up? Or are there any starting points at all? Starting point is where you are now, actually. The important part is you start. Kasi that's the hardest part. You don't know where to start, you don't know when to start. So, in order for you to actually improve on something, you just have to start. It doesn't the first thing that you achieve will always be ugly. The first thing that you you do is always ugly. That's why, but the important part, the important thing that you need to keep in mind is that you started it. You started it and keep moving forward despite of having a really really slow progress, but you know you're improving. Like you know that you're improving because, for example, in my case, when I started photography, ang dami papasok sa isip ko like anong composition, anong angle, anong settings ng camera ang kailangan ko ayusin, anong settings na kailangan kong gamitin on a certain aspect for portrait shots, for street photography. Papasok yung lahat sa isip ko. So I ended up just doing research without actually shooting. So the main key, but the main point here is that once you have done your research, once you're starting to understand the terminologies and the things that you need to understand, uh, the next thing you have to do is to apply that, which is to start. So I went out, start shooting, and after the more I shoot, the more I understand the feeling of taking photos. The more I'm confident on taking photos, and then I started working on my settings. Like I changes the settings to something that I like. Then from then or onwards, I started learning. I started doing compositions, doing framing, doing low angle shots or angled shots, or like having something on the foreground, having a messy background, or having something like that. So it just improves. The moment you understand, the moment you feel na something is easy, something parang the more you do it, the more you get used to it, and then eventually the more you progress, the next thing you do, marirealize mo na lang na parang dali na lang para sa akin. Like it's easy for me. And then that's where it hits you. The thing that you kept thinking at the very beginning of the career path that you took, nung panahon na yun, nahihirapan ka, di mo alam kung saan mag-uumpisa. And then few months later, sobrang dali na lang sa'yo. That's the moment you'll understand na you have improved. You have gained a new skill. So that's how it works. The important part is just start. There's a starting line is whenever you're ready, whenever you feel like you need to start doing something, that's the starting point. Just to clarify po, as a freelancer, the best source of clients is through recommendations, right? Yes, that's the best source. That's the best way to market yourself is through recommendations. But in my case, I actually don't have any, as a aspiring freelance photographer, I don't know anyone that could recommend me. Like I don't have a friend na who could recommend me like, oh, I have a friend na who's planning on a wedding. Maybe you could be their photographer. I don't have those kind of recommendations or connections with me. So instead of worrying where I could get these recommendations, I build up my portfolio. I make connections. If you're a freelancer, connections is also one thing that you need to keep in mind. It doesn't matter who, it doesn't matter where, just build connections. So in my case, one of the since wedding photography is something that I could not reach as of the moment kasi walang yun nga, like I said, walang nagre-recommend sa akin na fellow friends na parang I have someone who's planning to do wedding. Maybe you could be their photographer. Walang ganun sa akin. So I started with cosplay photography. And during those shoots, one of the risks that I'm taking is providing free photo shoot to every cosplayer that I meet. I come close to them, lapitan ko sila na parang, oh, can I take a photo of you for free, ganito, ganyan, and I'll edit it later and send it to you. After that, after that short conversation, and after the event, I start working on editing the photos, and then I send it to them. And then from then onwards, once they start liking the photos, like sasabihin nila parang, ang ganda, thank you for taking photos. It's actually nice to hear na parang ganun yung comments nila. So from then onwards, you can actually drag the conversation longer. Like, oh, thank you for glad to hear that you like the photos. Hopefully we can do more collabs in the future. And if you like the photos, feel free to follow our page, follow our Instagram page, mga ganon. So from then onwards, even though it's a small thing that you did, you're actually trying to make a move, or you're stepping one foot further from where you have started. You're making connections, you're improving your photos, and at the same time, once you meet certain people na parang outgoing or parang they don't mind, they enjoy the things that they do. Like in my case, we have actually met one cosplayer and they started recommending us. Hindi naman nire-recommend na parang hire us, pero like that cosplayer is happy to hear na parang every time they see us, the photographers of Cinestill, they invite their friends. So like maganda sila mag-shoot ganito, they enjoy they are fun to shoot with. So that's where you'll realize that the connections you made is actually bearing some fruit. That's why, like I said, we will always keep repeating, just start. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter what, just start. Yun lang ang pinaka-importante. So, are there any sources you can recommend for people stuck in general tech stuff? Um, I I couldn't answer this for myself or for everyone else. For those people who feel stuck, like they don't know where to start, they don't know what to start. Kasi syempre, like not graphic design is not for everyone, photography is not for everyone, programming is not for everyone, or any other skills that you have learned during the college days is not for everyone. I would say is number one, find something that you enjoy doing. May it be gaming, may it be game development or video editing, photo editing, or logo design. Find something na parang willing ka matutunan, willing ka to understand and learn, because parang you feel like nafi-feel mo na parang masaya siyang gawin. Masaya siyang gawin, and that's where you need to focus on. Because that's the only leading point that you have as of the moment. Find something that you enjoy and start working on it. Yun lang. Any draft photography page, you can follow us guys dito. Sabi ni Madam Feliz. So, that's both for IG and IG and Facebook. And then Any specific YouTube channels or websites for learning more about QA? There's a lot actually. There's a lot of QA things that you can understand. Simply, you can just simply start with understanding QA testing. So best practices for QA testing. You can start with this. What is QA testing? This is actually something that I used when I tried to apply in Singapore. I studied this, and then from here onwards, if you want to learn automation, it's a different topic on its own. I suggest if you guys want to do QA work, or if you're planning to apply as a QA tester, start with manual testing first. While manual testing is really tedious, daming trabaho, sobrang time consuming, it's actually the best and the only best option that you could start with in order for you to learn and understand QA. Or if you really don't have any, parang since you're a student pa and you don't actually know where to start, like for example, you go on a website, you play around with it, you get, instead of asking where to go next, start asking like what does this thing do? Like what does this login button do? What does this drop down do? Or what the about this page is do? Being curious is one of the things that QA thing that you can start working on as a QA. Like, oh, what happens if I like turn this into a small website, something like that. No. Or what happens if I maximize this? What happens if I literally turn this into a really small page or window? So does it break? Does it cook? At least with this, you'll start understanding how to do QA. So ganun lang. Or one of the things pala guys, if you see an opportunity, say parang if you're into games, and then you see na parang they some developers kasi na nag-allow sila to apply for a alpha tester or beta tester, I suggest take that opportunity. Take that opportunity. They'll give you the alpha version of the game or the beta version of the game. Like they'll give you a specific link that where you can only access it and only you can access it, and then you can start testing it. So that's a good start. You can actually include that in your resume if you start applying. The more things, the more games that you have applied to as a game tester or as a beta tester, alpha tester, it is considered as an experience. So yun siya. Anything else, guys?
Hello, Phil. You can start asking your question now.
Sorry, I already asked. It's a chat. Sorry.
So I guess that's we can call it a day. Wala na ba guys?
Wala na pang question. Ay, okay.
Ay, meron na. Do we have ba? I heard a thing.
Baka na-misclick, I don't know.
Okay, if may questions pa kayo guys, ano na lang, mag-email na lang kayo. Tapos try namin i-forward kay Sir Woods yung yung questions nyo, and then ayun, we'll get back to you. So okay na ako, mag-closing na ba? If okay na sa lahat.
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. Present lang ako. Ayan, nakikita ba? Or like may... Okay, so first and foremost, I would like to express our deepest, ayun yung trend na naman, express our deepest appreciation to the guest speaker for being here on today's event. And of course to the Compile team for their valuable contributions to make this event a success. I would also like to present the certificate of appreciation to Mr. Muzdahir Amil for being the resource speaker for this workshop. It's been an honor to be among such amazing speaker and be taught the importance of the quality assurance and what it is all about. This event wouldn't be a success if it weren't for everyone's dedication and effort. On behalf of the Compile, we would like to commend and send our deepest gratitude to everyone who took their time to attend today's event. It's been a pleasure to be with you all today. Once again, congratulations to a successful event and thank you for attending. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you guys for having me. More power to you guys. And then again, don't be afraid to start. Just start working on things. Anything would be fine, just as long as you start. Have a great day. Thank you again for having me. And bye bye.
Bye po.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great day. More power to you guys. Laban lang.